r/Askreddit. People of Reddit, what is the most no one knows job that pays a really good amount of money? Tube operators. Tube as in the British subway. Because the job is so depressing, whoever takes on the job actually gets paid quite a decent amount. However, the conditions are actually awful. Underground means not much lighting, the air is stuffy, and there is no one to talk to. You get paid pretty well, £60 kp/a. The timpanist, kettle drummer, of the orchestra gets paid really well. Only the first violin gets paid more. It turns out that keeping those kettle drums tuned requires an enormous amount of skill. Concert masters, the principal first violin, in the largest profile orchestras generally make between $300,000 and $500,000 a year. But the real money is in conducting. The highest paid conductor is currently the music director of the Dallas Symphony, who made $5.1 million in the 2013/2014 season. Technically not no one knows, more of no one notices. I'm from Singapore, and my uncle sells Hainan sa chicken rice, as a hawker, at $2.50 a plate. Even though the working conditions look rough, he rakes in more than $150,000 a year. Woo. Might consider taking over his business if I flunk university. I've heard you can make some pretty crazy money working on oil rigs. The hours are insane, you have to leave home for a while, and the job sucks, but apparently you can make a killing doing it. Nuclear divers. You only have to work once every few months because of the amount of radiation you receive, and can make up to $100,000 per year. They make repairs in nuclear reactors. It's actually not very dangerous if you don't do it a lot. Water is a very good shield against radiation, and the divers receive a relatively small dose if you compare it to the background radiation we all get during a year of just living our lives. The superpowers are an added perk. Every job done on a cruise liner or a trading vessel will be paid far more than the same job on land. Plus you don't have time to spend any of it. I was a merchandise roadie. Upfront pay was $100 to $200 per day. Per diem allowance was $6 to $20. International travel and food was free, smiley face. Riding around with bands on tour buses, accruing stories, seeing the world, hard labor every day. Your job is sometimes excruciatingly hectic. I was once in Cologne and sold €13,000 worth of 3 doors down t-shirts in one night, on my own. But in a sense, free. I toured with Adele 3 times, La Rue 3 times, Lenny Kravitz, Interpol, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and tons more. Smaller acts were way more fun, especially metal bands, but nobody gets excited when you say you toured with Annihilator for 2 months. Some people put down trade jobs such as plumbing, welder, etc. because they do not require a college degree. After completing trade school, and if you are accepted into a union, you can make a more than decent amount of money and have great benefits to go with it. There are more alternatives than college where you can make a living for yourself, and getting a trade is a great alternative. My dad used to shoot wildlife that would stray onto airport runways. He was on about $65K a year IRC. Maybe this is common knowledge, but I just learned that UPS drivers get compensated pretty well. Loads of vacation as well. Uncle is a driver. Makes around $80,000 a year with great benefits, but his body is going to start breaking down pretty soon. Actuaries. Not truly no one knows per se, but a lot of people aren't really aware of them. They're the people who calculate what the rates should be for insurance. Very, very mathematical. Well paid, but an extremely demanding job. Average is right around $100,000 USD. Tech for events. The grunts do okay, but the guys with any skill do well. Corporate events pay better, but concerts don't build themselves. RN, I'm making $60/HR to scratch my butt. Nothing next week, but that's okay with me. Celebrity dog walker. The sexton of a church who gets paid a substantial salary, with benefits and pension, to ring the steeple bells on the hour. Between bell-ringing sessions, he polishes the brass in the church and gets it ready for funerals, weddings, and weekend services. But most of the time, he acts as a tour guide for those visiting the building on weekdays who want to see the church's original Tiffany stained glass windows. $76,000 average per year, many on 6 figures. Sales professional at luxury retail stores. I worked at a jewelry store in Las Vegas making over $100K/year and being under 30 years old. If you are with the right company and in the right city, commission is limitless. Specialist welders. My brother in the southeast makes $250K and to do welding on nuclear projects. He has to have a security clearance and a bunch of unique training. He works ridiculous hours in spurts but has a lot of downtime when a project is either being treated or he's waiting on some special metal to arrive. I've heard of underwater welders making similar money, but they have to live on a rig and most of it is really just hazard pay. Elevator tradesman. An older brother of a friend of mine had this job and did indeed make a very good living. The only real catch was he was almost always on call. We would be hanging out at like 11 p.m. pounding beer and playing video games, and then the older brother would go to piss and come back in his work jumpsuit like, "Gotta go fix an elevator BRB." He was on $90,000. I shit you not, professional chicken sexers, as in, determining the sex of, can earn $60,000 a year. I mean, that's not retire early money, but I think it's crazy high for feeling chicken dicks for a living. But it's also the job where you sort baby chickens on a conveyor belt and toss the male chickens into a grinder specifically because they're male and won't lay eggs. That's messed up. A white guy can pretty much go to China and get paid to be a white guy. Either teaching English, no teaching experience required, just need to speak English. Or just being paid to sit in on business meetings pretending to be an American investor. As far as part-time work, I valet and make around $30 an hour on average. It's a ton when it is literally the easiest job in the world. Shut your brain off and run for cars. Driving a commuter train in Toronto, Canada pays $80K/year. I mean, you can just chill and listen to music or whatever. You just have to watch your speed. Working on a billionaire's yacht, they don't drive/cook/clean/serve/etc. themselves. The rule of thumb for yacht captains is typically $1,000 salary per foot of length of boat. So if your billionaire has a 120 yacht, expect a $120,000/year salary. I don't have a college degree but make around $70K in Wisconsin. Industrial inspection, NDE or NDT, mostly checking high pressure welds with X-ray, magnetics, etc. Downside is the hours. We'll end up with around 80 this week, and you don't always know your schedule, but it's alright for a mid-20s guy without kids or too many responsibilities. Took me about 2.5 years to get to this level. Started around 13 an hour and now around 25. Company paid for me to go to class and get my certifications, which is how you get the raises. This guy is an EMT for an overnight shift at an oil rig in Alaska, I believe. He sits on path of exile all night in his trailer with Wi-Fi and a laptop. He's been working for 2 years and has had 3 calls, one of which was only a bear walking around in the vicinity of the outer fence. Makes about $200,000 a year. Being a court reporter pays extremely well. I live in Texas. The salaries for court reporters here average $75,000 and upwards, including retirement and paid vacation time. Even as a freelance deposition reporter you can make upwards of $100,000 if you put in the time. It's definitely a unique skill though. You need to have a strong command of the English language. The theory behind writing on steno machines is also incredibly unique. You will need to alter your normal ways of spelling to be able to write correctly. In Texas there is a state certification that must be passed before you can be licensed. Texas requires you to write at a speed of 225 strokes per minute for at least 5 minutes. The test is definitely a huge barrier for a lot of people to get licensed. After working in an office setting my entire life, I have deduced that the money has to be amazing for printer/copier/fax machine repair people. A never-ending list of work and overtime from what I can see. I'm convinced that there's an unwritten code that requires them to leave the machine in worse condition than what they found it in. Medical laboratory professionals make decent money, varies by location, but 45 to 75 a year is the middle half, and due to a decline in interest in the field over the last 20 or so years there are job openings everywhere. It's only getting worse because the baby boomers are retiring and we're struggling to fill the holes they're leaving behind. MLT certification takes about 2 years to complete, compensation is on the lower end of the scale, and won't be able to work in some labs. MLS takes about 4 years to complete, compensation is better, and can work in most non-specialty labs. Health economist. The field of health economics didn't really take off until the late 90s, and it's booming as of today. OECD countries are starting to realize that they need more efficient ways to manage and organize their healthcare systems. Countries like Italy are still at ground zero when it comes to economic evaluation of drugs/technologies/diagnostic tests/treatments/etc. The prime example is the UK, which has a completely separate body called NICE to carry out evaluations for the NHS. People with a master's/PhD in health economics are in massive shortage and wanted by pretty much every international organization/technology consultancy/governmental body, and of course by pharmaceutical companies, and they are paid very, very well. I am a health economist working for a major international organization. Where I am, the pay for an analyst is €60,000 per year tax-free. Giant crane operators make tons of money. Even small crab operators can do pretty good. Repairing equipment in a clean room. No education necessary. Very rare to see degreed techs. Clean room is kept at 65F. You are wearing a full suit over your street clothes, and everything you work on requires gloves so your hands stay dirt and callus free. Don't tell my boss, but the job is actually fun. Being a flight attendant for one of the good international airlines. My friend works for Emirates, and it's pretty much the ideal job for someone without a family. The salary is awesome. You only work about 14 days a month. You travel the world for free and enjoy mini vacations wherever you go. Stay in 5-star hotels for free. Get set up in a luxury apartment in Dubai for free. Get discounts on international flights for you and your family, etc. Pipe fitters, sort of a different version of an HVACR tech, primarily focusing on industrial and commercial. In Colorado, a good pipe fitter can make $75,000 a year, before any overtime, by the time they're 22 or 23. That's with basically no student debt accrued. It's a job that is always in demand too. It can be a tough job, but you'll never hurt for work. No idea if this is true or not, but when I was in the Army, we were told that parachute riggers, the people who pack parachutes, work by just having a certain quota of chutes they have to pack per day. Apparently it's a very boring task, and the longer they keep going the more likely a mistake will be made. Because of this, the guys who have been doing it for years and are really good at it complete their quota for the day in like 2 to 3 hours, so they're home every day by 11 a.m. I have a friend whose father is British and his mother Japanese. He grew up in China for most of his life but spent a few years in America and some in Japan. He's naturally fluent in Japanese, Chinese, and English. He works for some Chinese company and is essentially the assistant of any big-name people who travel for business. His salary isn't anything incredible, like $75,000, but he sometimes goes weeks without working, and when he travels with them he's treated as an equal and gets to eat and drink at some of the finest restaurants in the world and stays in amazing hotels. Anesthesiologist assistant. They work under the direction of licensed anesthesiologists, specialist physicians, and as part of anesthesia care team. Start at $120K and move up to $160K per year. Guy used to pay me $30 HR to cremate bodies. It's easy and I just listened to music the whole time. Kinda cliche, but I had death metal on full blast while burning bodies. Pretty cool TBH. Got no gag reflex? Enjoy other people's POO? Have your scuba certs? Become a construction diver. Make $10,000 to dive into wetted structures at the wastewater treatment plant. You're usually done in about 4 hours. Well, 6 hours if you count the shower. It's a tough job to find, but being a technical writer for imported things. My job was to take the directions included with Chinese-made DIY furniture, which were in horribly translated English, and rewrite them to make sense to the average English speaker. I did it informally and got a couple grand per assignment, but the company I did it for went out of business and I wouldn't even know where to look for that type of job again. I found it through a relative the first time. Fucking ATM machines. My dude used to sell weed in college and always had cash laying around that he refused to put in the bank. So he decided to buy an ATM machine. He went around to local businesses and asked if he could put his machine in there. Started filling it with his weed money and eventually the $2 to $4 fee started to add up. Bought another ATM and repeated the cycle. Fast forward 10 years later, he has around 55 machines, multiple employees, and doesn't really do anything other than manage the business's affairs. I've never asked how much he makes, but he'll just say high six figures. It's nuts. Yachting. Fucking working on super yachts. No living expenses because you live on a boat. Entry level is $4,000 a month plus ridiculous tips from the people that charter the boats. It's a stupid amount of money, and all you need is a few classes and a medical exam. I know people that worked in yachting for 10 years and retired at the age of 30, it's a crazy amount of money. If you are a Canadian or American, working on a domestic cargo ship pays a lot and you have a very low cost of living. On my ship, the ordinary seaman, lowest ranking guys, get paid around $80,000 a year before taxes. Besides the basic safety courses and seamanship courses, there are no educational requirements. A lot of the guys I work with never finished high school, and some of the older fellows don't even know how to read. If you want more money, you can be a navigation or engineering officer. To accomplish this, you need to take a 3 or 4 year program. For me, the school cost about $3,000 a year. When you graduate, you can get a job immediately. I got hired 1 week after I became certified, and the pay is about $14,000 to $15,000 a month before taxes, and you can work about 7 to 8 months a year. The best part about this is your reduction in cost of living. If you are a single person with no attachments, you only need to rent a place for a few months a year during your time off. Hell, you can even spend that month off crashing with your friends or parents if they don't mind. It's only 1 month at a time. When on the ship, you don't have to pay for food, cable, internet, housing, electricity, heat, gym membership, etc. Hell, you don't even need to spend money for a car since you won't be using it, nor do you need it to commute to work. Also, since you are not ashore as often, you are less likely to buy stuff you don't need. Even if you do have a family, you can pick and choose where you want to live because the company flies you to the ship anyways. A lot of the guys I work with live in very small and inexpensive communities where it only cost $50,000 to buy a house that would cost almost $1 million in a big city. Perfusionist. The person who runs the machines that keep blood pumping and circulating during heart surgery. Requires a Bachelor of Science and 1 to 2 years of perfusionist school, but it pays 6 figures, I believe. Only about 3 to 4,000 of them in the United States. Huge shortage of them. Semi-drivers for Walmart in Florida. My father is one and makes upward of $100,000 a year. Look to Alaska. Or look to any fishing job. Or any job that revolves around oil. It will be dangerous. But you'll make money. Seafarers can make a pretty decent living, but they only get paid while they are at sea. It's also kind of crap money for the first few years. But I have an acquaintance who makes $8,000 per month while he's at sea. He goes out for 2 years straight and then just sits at home until he runs out of cash. House is paid for. He can live wherever he wants. He just has to show up at a port with a union office for work. So he can live in Montana and just hop down to Detroit to pick up a contract, if he felt so inclined. As it happens, he lives in Pennsylvania where the cost of living is really cheap. Buy a house for under $100,000 type. I'm from Denver, Co, but most of these should be nationwide. Train conductor. I personally know 2 people who make $80K and with no college degree. Car sales. If you work hard you can make $200K in 3 years. I know many people who have done this without degrees also. It is usually done by being promoted to finance or becoming a sales manager. You will need a solid work ethic and a desire to learn. Anything oil related, don't know exact but close to $100K and is a 2 weeks on 1 week off kind of job. This could be more Colorado specific.